Let's take you back to Westerville, Ohio, where Ed O'Keefe and Caitlin Huey-Burns are standing by with Senator Kamala Harris. Caitlin?
Hello. Yes, we are here with Senator Kamala Harris, who has graciously joined us on her way to another television hit. Thank you for being here. In the first debate, you made a lot of news by going after Joe Biden. And then we've seen, I know that you don't look at the polls all the time, but we've seen the campaign kind of make some readjustments. Do you regret making that shot early on?
Well, I didn't think of it as a shot. I thought of it as, and I still think of it, is that we had a legitimate disagreement, and it related to an issue that I feel deeply about and obviously have a personal experience with. And but I will tell you, when we look at the issues that come up on the debate stage, there are many important issues that are challenging the ability of American families to get through the month. And those issues must be discussed, and they must be a priority, which is why tonight I wanted to talk about what we need to do around the economic support that families need who can't get through the end of the month without worrying about their ability to pay a $400 unexpected expense. And so I have what has been described as the most significant middle-class tax cut in generations that I'm going to offer American families. I wanted to talk about the issue of choice, and I brought that up because it is literally impacting half of the women in half of the population who are the women in our country. And we have had 6 presidential debates, and this has not been a topic of serious discussion.
The issue of the Supreme Court also came up in this debate and hadn't really been talked about at previous debates. We were wondering, would you release a list of potential Supreme Court nominees while running for president?
No, not yet. But at some point, obviously, we'll make that. But right now, I got to win.
There was the group Demand Justice that I know you're aware of released a list today that had a number of Californians on the list. Your successor in the Attorney General's office, Javier Becerra, for one, Katie Porter, the Congresswoman, a handful of federal and state Supreme Court justices, other people who work for the NAACP, the ACLU. Their argument being, you got to look beyond the Ivy League, you got to look beyond just judges. There are attorneys, there are academics who could conceivably serve on the court. You have a legal background. You don't release a list, but is there any type of person or experience that you would want to see potentially?
Absolutely. I'm going to, and I have done this before. I did this as Attorney General of California, where I reviewed nominees to the California Supreme Court, and I do it now in the Senate Judiciary Committee. And so I'm going to look for someone who has life experience. That's very important to me, not someone who has lived and worked in an ivory tower, because the decisions that court makes impact real people. If the United States Supreme Court hadn't decided to Brown v. Board of Education, I would literally not be here right now. I'm looking for every candidate, and any candidate that I seriously consider has got to respect the precedent of Roe v. Wade and respect the precedent of Brown v. Board of Education. And these are qualifications that, for me, are not subject to debate, which is the need to have people on these courts who are going to serve for a lifetime, who are prepared to fight for the values behind our Constitution and support legal precedent as it relates to some of our most fundamental values.
One more real quick. You're on the Senate Intelligence Committee.
Yeah.
Obviously, there's a lot of work going on there back in Washington. What's your understanding of where the committee's work is on the fresh issues now raised in the last 6 weeks or so by the president's outreach to Ukraine, but also the underlying investigation that's still underway?
Well, the Senate Intelligence Committee, I can tell you from my experience, it has been working on all issues in a bipartisan way, and I believe on this issue, like all other issues, takes these matters very seriously and will rely on the long-standing integrity and hard work of our intelligence community to help inform our decisions in our role of oversight.
You said go ahead, Caitlin.
You have called for impeachment. Any concern about, rendering this judgment before going through this process?
Look, I just believe in plain talk, and the reality is that it doesn't take much if you've been following what's happening to see that this president essentially has confessed to a crime, did it right, gave us all the information and the evidence, and then tried to cover it up. So I don't believe in sugarcoating or playing around with people about what I believe, and based on what I believe and based on what we've seen, I think that there is an impeachment in Donald Trump's future.
All right,
Senator,
Kamala
thank
Harris,
you so
thanks
much.
for stopping by.
Thank you for
I know
stopping
you've
by.
effing moved to Iowa, as you said.
Yes.
So we'll see you there tomorrow, I think. You're headed to Dubuque?
I will see you there
All right,
tomorrow.
we'll be